It's the return of Tobias Harris. And where's Daryl Morey at? Hello, everybody. Good day to you. It is another edition of Picks and Roll. Sean Barnard with you here. A lot to discuss in the world of the NBA. Front and center, all things 76ers. We hit on a little bit yesterday, and I'm sure our brains got a little bit more going over the next few hours. And, of course, conversation taking place on the timeline extended some of those thoughts. But, Sean, I'm really intrigued to hear where you're at after what Nick Nurse had to say. And, of course, I know that there were a lot of people that were disappointed in his tone. I saw one outlet say he snapped. I didn't get that. But it's where we're at, present day with the Philadelphia 76ers. How you doing today, Sean?
Yeah, can't complain. We got an exciting day of basketball. The much awaited return of Tobias Harris to Philadelphia here, and of course the NBA finally taking care of business and sending a fine in the Sixers' direction for their management of Joel Embiid, or I guess the verbiage surrounding it is really the issue here. So I don't know. I don't feel too differently from yesterday after the investigations concluded. Overall, I think this could end up being a good thing for the Sixers from the standpoint that like the pot has been stirred. There are eyes on them, and they're going to have to approach things a little more clearly from here. But still, the same frustrations that there is not any sort of transparency. I do think Nick Nurse should have handled himself much better than what was the case at the podium there. I get his frustrations because, again, this is not him making the decision. And this is something I'm sure is incredibly frustrating to not have the best player available for reasons that if he even knows at this point. So I get it, but I think he should be a little bit more prepared for those situations and expect that to be coming because that is the most pressing issue with the Sixers team. So I wouldn't go as far as snapped, but I was not really thrilled with the way that he went about that.
Really? So we'll get into Shams' tweet too, because there's definitely some stuff there to unpack. But we talked about it because I think it happened, especially like right before we went live, and I think it was something along the lines of it's a concoction of frustration from Nick Nurse. It's a concoction of, hey man, I got a job to do. Talk to me about the players that we have here. Front office probably hanging them out to dry a little bit. I just think it's all into one. And I don't think it was James Franklin-esque where he was kind of like, whiny and weaselly. I just thought it was like, guys, what else do you want? Oh, by the way, plus they were being fined $100,000, which is a big damn deal. So,
and by the way, investigation not concluded at that point, which is more reason to be a little more tight-lipped with things to give him a little bit of, benefit of the doubt here.
All right. So as far as that is concerned, what was your takeaway with Shams and what he had to say as far as his tweet? Because I think that was very interesting. He said, quote, sources said the NBA's investigation showed that the Sixers did not violate player participation policy with Embiid's missed games, but in fact, with the public comments that did not properly reflect his health issues with his knee. Your thoughts on that?
I think it kind of confirms that there's something going on here, that this isn't just, ramping up and, staying fresh, that there's some sort of issue going on with Joel's knee. Now, I think the honest reality here is this is a forever thing. These are degenerative knee issues that aren't going to get better. I think the Sixers have approached that, haven't been upfront about it, but they're kind of aware of the situation in a way that the public is not, which is sort of this issue there. So I think it is notable that he did reference that specifically, that this wasn't that they're just holding him out as a healthy scratch. That to me is notable. Again, it's more frustrating from the Sixers angle that is the case. But ultimately, I think I don't know, a little bit much to do about nothing, but I'm glad that to an extent the NBA is getting involved here.
So I saw somebody on my timeline. I think it was, I know it was John Kincaid from The Fanatic, and his take was this morning. And let me pull it up real quick because I don't follow him, but it did see it pop up. And I thought it was interesting because I think there is something to be said on this thought. And it was basically his take. Why can't I find it? I'm sorry about that. Essentially, his take was that it was The Fanatic that put it out. All right, here we go. Your thoughts on this? The 76ers plan was not to have Joel Embiid sit out the first 4 games of the year because of some grand plan to have him play less games. So he's ready for the playoffs. He's ramping up. He's coming off a summer that was very busy when, again, it maybe would have been better for him to have a relaxing, quieter summer than traveling all over and doing Olympics. But it's something he wanted to do, and the Sixers couldn't stop him. But 100%, this is not some grand plan to take him off of games in October, so he'll be better in April, so he'll be better in May. This is not that. What do you say to that? Because I do believe that this is a combination of what he said about the Olympics, no doubt about that. But if this isn't about April and May, what are we doing?
Yeah, I think there's some truth to what he's saying there, but I mean, I don't think the plan was for him to not be ready for the first 4 games of the season. I do think the plan is to limit his games, to manage him. I don't think like that was the ultimate when you had, the big meeting of the brains to figure out what's the best route to keeping Joel Embiid healthy. I don't think they went, let's scratch him for opening night in the next 3 games and then go from there. I think like we
Really?
will see the effects of that throughout the season. I mean, maybe, but I think
Well,
realistically,
let me stop you there, because what if he misses? You and I talked about yesterday, and we were like, Thanksgiving could be the date that he comes back, right? And that's a long ways away. So if that's the case, the further we get out, isn't that more truthful in your mind?
sure. Yeah. I mean, and that could be the case. It's these are answers that we should have. Like
Yeah.
this is stuff that we're not like digging in to
I
figure out.
need your crystal ball, Sean Bernard. Read your
Like,
crystal ball.
but I mean, like this falls back on like I guess my biggest gripe with things is all this like horrible PR look and everything that's surrounding it, the fine, all these things. It's all so avoidable if there's just some more truth being told or people being upfront with the Sixers, directly addressing things head on. We haven't heard from Joel Embiid or Daryl Morey in weeks, probably over a month at this point, since training camp officially started, which like that to me is an issue. And by the way, you can call a press conference whenever you choose to. Like if there's something going on here, Daryl, you can step down and practice, step out of the office and take a couple questions if you feel like it. That is allowed. Joel Embiid, you're at the facility. So like I think like we're being forced to read through the lines and figure out things. I think the Olympics is a little bit of an unfair gripe that people are holding here. We've done the dance where Joel Embiid does nothing all summer, and that hasn't done anything either. I personally think the best way to keep him in shape is to continue playing basketball, which was the case this summer, and very high level basketball at that, by the way. Plus, I think it was beneficial for him to learn to like share the floor with other stars where you got to be a little less ball dominant. I think there were pros to him playing in the Olympics. It's what went down in the several weeks after the fact that is where the questions are concerns in there. So I don't know. We can point blame in a lot of directions here.
You are right. You are right. We can point blame in many different directions. And if Joel Embiid, it's new media, right? Like he's got a Twitter account, he's got an Instagram. Every player on his team has a podcast, so you could hop on and get his word out anytime he wants. And oh, by the way, Daryl Morey, it would be great to hear from the grand wizard of all of this right here, the man in charge, and of course that is Daryl Morey. So we'll see what happens as far as that is concerned. But moving on, man, it's never boring with the 76ers, is it? It really isn't. Let's talk about what we have coming up here tonight. We got a lot of games to get into. I think 11 games in the association, the return of Tobi. Quickly, though, on last night's games, though, Sean Bernard, the king of the court, no surprise, Joker. He went absolutely off. Again, the list of the king of the courts on DraftKings Sportsbook is just hysterical. It's all the big names. Let me pull it up for you because
And they extended the promo, by the way,
nice.
until Friday now. Yeah.
I texted my people at DK and I said, tell you what, you guys did a really nice job here. You got a lot more eyeballs on the start of the NBA season than normally. And look, I think there are people that are really dominant when it comes to, or just not dominant, but NBA dominant as far as wagering versus other leagues. And then there are people that bet on everything. I think you are getting from that pot the people that bet on everything to get them, or the people that are less inclined to bet on everything that don't touch the NBA to get involved with this. Sorry that I couldn't spit that out there. King of the court, though. Last night, Joker goes for 63 points, rebounds, and assists. Just to let you know, Paulo Banchero the night before with 72 is the leader in the clubhouse.
Wow.
Absolutely insane. Points, rebounds, and assists. 50-point performance will do that for you. Anyways, Joker last night, so we'll start there. Big win over Brooklyn. Brooklyn gets the cover, though, 5.5. 5-point win, 144-139 overtime game there. Your thoughts on that one, Sean Barnard?
Yeah, I thought, especially down the stretch there, like Jokic had 17 points fairly late in that fourth quarter, and then really took over down the stretch and in overtime as well. That he just made a clear effort to use his physicality, back guys down. The Nets had no answer for that. We know he's one of the best post scorers and one of the dying breed of remaining post scorers in the NBA. So Jokic doing his thing. I still have some concerns. Jamal Murray's been very up and down still, and there were the highs and lows of him last night in a couple of different situations there. So I still have my eyes on that from a season-long standpoint and how that impacts the Nuggets, because he still doesn't look like the best version of himself just yet, but he showed a couple flashes last night. So you shouldn't be bragging about an overtime victory over the Brooklyn Nets if you're the Denver Nuggets, but ultimately got the job done last night.
Road win is a road win.
Yeah.
And also a really good game from Russ. 20 minutes played, 22 points scored. Perfect from the stripe, 10 of 10, 5 of 12. Not so many boards, 5 assists, couple steals. Nice game by Russell Westbrook. You can get that from him. Look out. Obviously, that's easy to say there. All right, the other game that I want to shine a light on, of course, is Dallas, Minnesota. Nice call by you on that one. Dallas ends up winning. They were 5-point dogs. Of course, the night before they played and won that game. So short night there to get into Minnesota. They were 5-point dogs, and they win outright 120-114.
Yeah, bodies flying all over the place in this game. Daniel Gafford getting hurt, Luka Doncic getting banged up, Anthony Edwards tweaking things a little bit. So a physical game, you felt a little bit of the playoff atmosphere, probably one of the more intense games that I've seen so far this season, which was cool to check in on. Luka's terrific, man. He really is just one of the best processors of the game that we've seen, just guaranteeing that he's getting the best look from the offense. That late three, that kind of daggered where he's talking trash after, so cold-blooded, man. He really is. I thought Ant got a little bit out of control down the stretch there, that I thought he tried to do a little too much, ended up hurting the team. He had a couple costly turnovers late, so little growing pains there from obviously one of the up-and-coming stars in the league. But Luka Doncic is that dude. They gave him a chance to close things out, and he took it. So shout out to the Mavericks for getting the job done there.
Yeah, Ant was my pick for King of the Court, and he had a great first quarter. I tweeted it out, and then all downhill from there. But definitely give props to Dallas. Dallas, no surprise, right? They were a finals team last year. They looked good. So, yeah, they add Clay. Clay's hitting some big shots. I really like that addition. So we'll see what happens as far as
Kyrie was very good last night as well.
Kyrie is fantastic, man. It's a pleasure to watch him play basketball. It is. It has been from day one. It really is. Watching him last night, I couldn't agree with you more. Nice work on that one. Finally, from last night, Sean Barnard, and big picture question. Does the NBA have a problem? Last night, classic example, the Golden State Warriors, 21 of 46 from downtown. New Orleans, 8 of 21. Final score, 124-106. Golden State won. Now, that's not the end-all, be-all. Of course, there were turnovers that were in the play, dumb possessions, so on and so forth. But, man, 21 of 46 versus 8 of 21 from downtown. I'm 99% of the time going to tell you the team that attempted 46 three-pointers is going to win that game, hand over fist here. So where are we at right now? I do see some people in the national media asking the question that the league cannot sustain this. There needs to be some changes. It can't be this way moving forward. It's not a good watch. I don't know. The numbers will tell you different, right? People are still tuned in. But from the standpoint of winning basketball, taking your team up to another level, we talked about the Pelicans and everything that they had, the additions, nice draft picks, Zion, another season. And then they go into Golden State and lose to a Steph Curry-less team because they can't hit three-pointers like that. So your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so a couple points here. For starters, this has been one of my takes coming into the season is I think there's going to be a lot of three-point records broken this year. And to give a little context on things, the Celtics broke the record last year for most three-point attempts per game with 42. So far this season, Boston themselves is averaging 50.3 three-point attempts per game, and there are 6 teams in the NBA attempting more than what was the previous most per game, which was set last year at 42. So 6 teams currently breaking that to start that season, that being the Boston Celtics, the Chicago Bulls, the Golden State Warriors, the Brooklyn Nets, and the Charlotte Hornets and the Orlando Magic there. So not even exactly like the candidates you would expect. Now, For last night's game specifically, I don't think it was the story of that game. I thought it was more about the way Golden State defended. I was really impressed. Guy like Lindy Waters, who was swarming all over the place, Gary Payton making his impact foul. They were trapping all over the floor. And I think this is especially concerning for New Orleans when you factor in a guy like Brandon Ingram, who this is one of the overarching concerns in his game is there has been some decrease in his 3-point volume. Shot 3 of 6 last night and looked way more active in attempting to get perimeter shots up. So if he's a guy who's seeming like he's inching toward a solution and it's still being a problem for the team, that is an issue there. It's not my favorite style of basketball to watch. I hate how much like a 3-point contest things are becoming, but it is simple math. The 3 is more than 2. And when you dive into the odds here, the simple way I always try and break it down is if you're a good 3-point shooter, you're making 40% of your threes. If you're attempting 10 of those, that comes out to 12 points per every 10 possessions there. That means you got to score at a 60% rate from inside the arc to match that. So you just have less margin for error if you are scoring from inside the paint at kind of a similar volume there. It's a tough spot. I don't think it's going anywhere. I think it's only going to lean further in that direction. Don't think it's great for the sport of basketball, but it is the route to winning.
All right. Yeah, I'm with you there. You got to keep firing. I didn't know about the Boston Celtics at that number. We talked about them after opening night, but man, that's eye-opening. Only a few games into the season, but you could see that this is definitely dedicated in a way that teams need to go about it from here on out. Speaking of the Boston Celtics, quickly on this, did you see what Joe Mazzulla said?
The fighting or the power play? Yeah. He's a quote
No,
machine, man.
I didn't see the power play. What was the power play?
I think he was asked for like a rule suggestion, and he said for foul trouble, allowing teams to play 5-on-4 for a couple possessions or things like that. So start to create like a power play. He is a quote machine, Joe Mazzulla. He's a special kind of crazy. I mean it mostly as a compliment, but the dude is a psychopath.
Oh, it's great. Fantastic stuff. Yeah, he said, look, you got look, and I'm old. I'm definitely, no one's going to agree with me on this one. I hate fighting. I hate it. I don't think hockey needs to have it. Last night, Beef and I are doing a hitter for Beef up front, and like out of the corner of my eye on the TV, I just see these two dudes beating the hell out of each other with the Caps and the Rangers, and I'm just like, it's the start of the game, Sean. Like literally 3 minutes in, and it was all due to some AAA fight that they had in minor leagues at Hershey, and it's like really, and Missoula's point was like, man, that's like on a hard ice surface, and you got these guys just duking out in the NBA. They can't even leave the bench without being suspended for a week. So
yeah,
a little interesting there, though. But moving on, let's get to the game. Sean Barnard, full slate of games. Let's start with the 76ers and your thoughts on what we're going to see tonight. Sixers 4-point favorites, 219. They shouldn't have trouble with the Detroit Pistons, but this is the Philadelphia 76ers of 2024-25. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't think the Sixers are going to have much trouble taking care of business tonight. I do think that Pacers win was big for them on Sunday, that they needed to get one in the win column there, and just the way that they played with Tyrese Maxey looking as good as he did, particularly in that second half, scoring 37 of his 45 in the second half in overtime there. I think that carries into today, and he looks like the best player on the floor pretty comfortably. They're 4-point favorites in the game. A little bit steep for me, just from the standpoint of I could see this one going down from the wire, but I still think you should have no problem laying that, and they do cover the 4. And I'm looking right at Tyrese Maxey for how the job gets done from a point prop perspective. So his number is sitting at 29.5. I think he clears 30 again, and I also will float out there. Tobias is sitting at 14.5. So you want to have a little hate parlay or something and take the under there. I don't think that's a bad idea.
All right. It is Maxey's show, and we know that he's going to step up here. He has to be. He'll be called upon. It is funny to look at that Tobias Harris. Of course, Andre Drummond, what is your thoughts as far as he's concerned? Is there somewhere that we can target rebounds? Are they priced right where they need to be? Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's a high number, and rightfully so. You can get the over of 13.5 at plus 105. This is going to be a tougher matchup from him because Detroit does have some big bodies. He really hasn't been tested with that so far. He's been the best rebounder on the floor every single game so far, and I don't think that trend's going to change much. He's a monster on the glass. He's been very good. That Pacers game in particular, he really impressed me. He shifted out on the perimeter a couple times, had 2 huge steals late in that game that I didn't really think he had in his bag there. So shout out to Andre for showing up. I do like the over 13.5 number. It's a lot, but he's leading the entire NBA in total rebounds right now. He's the self-proclaimed best rebounder of all time. He is going to get every single defensive rebound that is there, which is kind of a comforting feeling for the Sixers to have that. So shout out to Drummond.
A very hungry and, a Pistons team that needs to find a win. A desperate Pistons team, 0-4 on the season, coming in once again. Sixers and Pistons tonight. And the 76 are 4-point favorites on a DraftKings Sportsbook. Sixers are winning tonight, Sean Barnard?
I do think Sixers are winning. I think they got pushed to 2-2. Detroit's still looking for their first win. They're still figuring things out. And as much as I like Cade and think this team should be better than like they seem to be heading down the pathway again this year, I haven't seen much signs of life just yet. So I'm holding off on a Detroit belief early on.
All right, over to the rest of the card here on DraftKings Sportsbook. Last night we had a Western Conference final, rematch from last year, and basically it was the same thing. It was Dallas on the road in Minnesota. Well, here we are with the ECF this evening. Boston on the road in Indiana. Last night was 5.5. Right here, 6.5. Will we have the same result in your mind?
I'm riding with Boston all the way on this one. That they've just looked too good for me to go any other direction, and that 6.5 feels too low to me. For the start of things for the Pacers, Tyrese Halliburton has really struggled to start off the season. His worst game obviously came in that matchup with the Knicks, where he was held scoreless, 0 points, 5 assists, 1 rebound, 1 steal. Shot 0 for 8 from the field, 0 for 7 from 3. If he's not his all-star dominant self, the Pacers are just not going to be that good of a basketball team. And yes, there's other players that can step up. There is talent on that roster, but nothing that compares to this Celtics team. I think you can make a strong case. I think at least the top two, and Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, are the top 2 players on the floor. I think you could extend the case a little beyond that for the Drew Holidays and, for the weight level that they're playing right now. So I'm riding with the Celtics all the way. They look incredibly dominant, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. So sign me up for the -6.5.
All right, next game up on the DraftKings card. Let's keep it moving here. Lakers and Cavs. Bronny, this is supposedly going to be the game that he plays going back to Cleveland, and then he's going to go to G League. Now, I don't know when the G League starts. Off the top of your head, never asked a question you don't know the answer to, but do you know when that starts?
I don't off the top of my head. I know they're doing tryouts and stuff right now, so I guess in the next couple weeks is when things will fully speed up, but I can find that.
Should we take Bronny's stats? Should we fire on Bronny tonight?
Not something I'm going to be recommending. They do have a nice. I did check out that they have a void if he does not clock a minute. I see the buzz that seems like he's going to play tonight, so we'll see if that happens there. But I'm not promoting any Bronny James props. I'll say that.
No, and there's nothing on DraftKings at this point in time either for that conversation. But what is intriguing though is the Cleveland Cavaliers are big time hefty favorite here. 5-point favorites at home, 225.5 is their total. Cavs, I believe, are still undefeated, doing really well. I'm a big Cavs supporter. I have been in previous seasons, so it's good to see that them getting off to a good start here. Not so much from the Sixers perspective, just as a gambler, but 5-point favorites against the Lakers. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm riding with JJ and the Lakers. I like the +160 on the money line. The Cavs have looked unbelievable to start this year, and I do think they're going to be a good basketball team. It's not like I don't believe in them, but I've been really impressed with how this Lakers team has been playing. I also love the way that it really ate at JJ in the one loss that they have picked up, and watching him deal with that at the press conference. I'm buying that they bounce back from that, find a way to get a win. I think that there are still some limitations with this Cavs team when you talk about the pairings of Evan Mobley, Jared Allen, and kind of the limitations that come with having 2 big men in today's NBA. I think JJ Redick finds a way to expose that he draws up some plays and cooks things up, and LeBron James and Anthony Davis continue to look like both top 10 NBA players. So sign me up for the Lakers on +160 on the money line.
Hornets 6.5 home favorites here against the Raptors, 225. Kind of putting a finger on the Hornets. Look, we know that they're not going to be consistent. It's the Charlotte Hornets, but when they do play well, they should cover this number and they should smash the Raptors. Raptors are in a bad spot. Your thoughts on this one, though, Sean?
Yeah, I'm not going to make a play until I find out about the status of Scotty Barnes. I know he took a knock to the face last night, so I'm not sure if he's going to be suiting up or not for this game. If he is in, I would lean towards the Raptors to cover that +5 or +6.5. If he's not, I don't have a ton of belief in this Toronto team. And a matchup of 2 bad teams, 2 young teams that are still figuring things out here. Not anything that super jumps out to me, but I would say just lock in and check on that Scotty Barnes injury report before making any sort of decision here.
Very smart stuff there from Sean Barnard. Hawks and Wizards. Hawks 5-point road favorites, 232.5. Trae Young, man, looking good so far this season. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I lean towards Atlanta here. Washington's still figuring things out, and I gotta say the Kyle Kuzma experience seems to be even worse this year than was the case in past seasons. For the sporadic play that he has down there in Washington, I have been impressed with what I'm seeing from Trae Young, and I will say Reese Shea, for how much he's been made fun of from the Hawks standpoint, doesn't look bad so far. The dude hustles, he competes out there, got some real deal size, and this is the matchup between the 1 and 2 picks in this year's draft. So doesn't quite come with the same spotlight that it typically does in most years, but still it'll be cool to see them face off. I think I like Atlanta go in there and take care of business. Trae Young is going to be, I mean, LaMelo Ball has been playing great as well, and I think that there are some similarities there, but I think Trae's just a little more polished and to me looks a lot more locked in than he has been in a couple seasons. So we'll see how it shakes out, but I'll ride with Atlanta tonight.
Game that I'm looking forward to this evening is the Knicks and the Miami Heat. Knicks, a 1.5 favorite, 215.5. Stop talking about the statue. Let's talk about the teams on the floor here, although the statue was pretty funny. Knicks, though, favored on the road. Right team favorite here in your mind, Sean?
Yeah, I think so. I haven't been impressed with either of these teams to start this year, to be
Same.
perfectly honest. New York 1 and 2. The biggest thing that's jumped out to me from them is they're not doing enough to get Karl Anthony Towns perimeter shots up. He's had only 2 3-point attempts in every game so far. This is a dude that's averaged as many as 7.9 per game in a season for his career. So you got to get him launching. That is the entire reason that you brought him to New York, is to space the floor and have this perimeter threat from the big man spot there. You got to lean into that now that you did make that deal. So New York's still a work in progress as far as how they're playing, but Miami seems pretty Jekyll and Hyde for when they're there and when they're not. Jimmy Butler was brutal on opening night, did bounce back and had a nice game against Toronto and seems to have found himself a little bit. But I just think that there's a lot of flaws with this Miami team, and it wouldn't shock me if they're looking down the barrel of a potential Jimmy Butler trade this season if things continue heading in that direction. New York, at least we know who they are and what they're building towards, so sign me up for them to take care of business.
All right, next one up here on the DraftKings card. Let's talk about the Brooklyn Nets and the Memphis Grizzlies. Brooklyn back-to-back games on the road, and Memphis taking on Zach Edey in that dominant offensive game that he has. Grizzlies 12-point favorites, 226 is our total.
Yeah, Grizzlies haven't been as impressive as I expected so far, but this is the type of game that they should be looking to lay it on. Second night of a back-to-back on an already pretty bad team with the Brooklyn Nets there. I'm going to lean towards this being the game that they do break out, and they do cover the -12 here. I think Brooklyn's a little bit more respectable than they're given credit. Cam Thomas is a guy that can get as hot as anyone in the league, but I think there's just too much talent in Memphis, and they're going to figure it out soon. So sign me up for the -12. Hopefully it happens tonight.
Spurs and Thunder. This is going to be a great game, but a big
Yeah.
spread. What am I missing here? 12.5, 221, OKC favored.
Yeah, I mean the Thunder are just very good is I guess the biggest thing here. I will ride with the +12.5 with a little bit of respect to Wembanyama. I do think that he shows up for these games. There were the little fireworks between him and Chet last year when they matched up, which was really fun to watch there. I do think Wemby's going to make his legitimate all-star case this year and be in the mix for some end-of-season awards. That's how good that he's going to elevate to be in year 2. I think that carries with elevating his team to being competitive. We haven't really seen the Spurs team click yet. I thought Chris Paul was going to make more of an immediate impact than has proved to be the case so far, but I'm not giving up on that becoming the case. So maybe it happens tonight. The Thunder are going to throw everything they have at them and just so deep. Like, I continue to be impressed by how good every name on that bench is, but I'll ride with Wembanyama out of respect and take them to cover the +12.5 here.
Excellent stuff. Pelicans and Warriors. Let's talk about this game here. Warriors again, last night, 2.5-point favorites, running it back, 219.5. What was the number last night? Let me look that up.
1.5 last night.
How about that?
In favor of the Pelicans.
Yeah, so now we flip it. Once again, 124 to 106. Anything different for you in tonight's game?
Yeah, I was pretty high on the Pelicans entering last night, laid the number with them, and should not have done that, obviously. I was pretty impressed with the way the Warriors defended was my number one takeaway, that they were just swarming. Buddy Hield was excellent as usual, the way that he battled through it. To give like the full turnover numbers here, again, it was them blitzing and doubling all over the floor, but from the team overall, they were talking about, 20 fouls, the turnovers, 24 turnovers for the Pelicans compared to 8 for the Warriors last night. So that's going to lose you games right there. I thought the way Lindy Waters particularly swarmed and made things happen, shot the ball really well. He impressed me. Kerr continues to roll with the deep bench, which I think is kind of hurting this Warriors team to an extent right now. But obviously didn't matter last night. They were just rotating quick and all that thing. So I think I like the Warriors to take care of business again. There's good energy and a youthful energy around that team right now, which kind of surprised me. So sign me up for a back-to-back taking care of business.
All right, and final game on the NBA card at 10:40, late one here. Clippers and Trailblazers in that brand new arena that seems to be getting a ton of love, and rightfully so. We need to get a picks and roll trip out there, courtesy of our friends at DraftKings, and so we could take in that new stadium. 8.5, 217 is your total in this one. Haven't paid too much attention to the Portland Trailblazers. Something tells me I shouldn't be surprised at what we've seen so far. But with this one here, once again, Clippers 3-0 ATS this season. Portland 2-1 ATS though. 8.5 point spread, 217.
Yeah, I don't love the Clippers like ability to put away teams right now. That's kind of my biggest concern with them is I think they can scrap. I think they can win some tough, hard-nosed game, but I do question like who can take the ceiling off and produce that sort of blowout. I do lean towards covering the plus 8.5 from Portland's end just because of that, but there's not a ton of reason for optimism with that team. Haven't seen Scoot Henderson taking those next steps just yet, which is really what I'm watching out for and hoping. There's other talented guys on that roster, Jeremy Grant and a number of other names that will be relevant or competent basketball players. So I'll go with the plus 8.5 because I expect this to ultimately be a game, but I do think the Clippers find a way to win this one.
All right, Sean, we woke up this morning, text message was firing, and there were plenty of people talking about the award for Rookie of the Year. So I want to hit two awards with you before we get out of here. MVP and Rookie of the Year. Let's start with Rookie of the Year. Zach Edey, 5-1. Your thoughts on Edey being the Rookie of the Year after it's all said and done?
Yeah, I think Mark's taking the victory lap a little bit early here, but he's right that he's looked bad. Like there's no denying that from Edey's standpoint. What he has in his favor from like the resume or the campaign standpoint is he's got guaranteed minutes and guaranteed opportunity that a lot of these other rookies do not. I do think it's been mispriced that Edey should not have been the significant favorite the way that he is and still currently is. I don't think he ultimately ends up winning Rookie of the Year, but when kind of looking down this list, he does have probably the clearest out of any of these guys, just the pathway to opportunity, which is the biggest deal there. So I understand the appeal, but can't overlook the fact that he has been pretty poor so far. So I think there's better days ahead for Edey, but I don't think it'll be Rookie of the Year.
All right. Is there anyone that you think we can make money on at this point in time? I'm seeing Reed Shepherd buried on the depth chart at Houston. A lot of good players there. Dalton Connect, is he getting enough minutes with the Lakers? You got Ryan Dunn doing things that were getting attention on the timeline. I just feel like it's not going to be Edey, so therefore there's money to be made in this market.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's going to be a weird race. It probably reminds me of the closest of like the Malcolm Brogdon and Dario Saric Rookie of the Year race that were kind of strange ones. Joel Embiid, by the way, split votes and I think tied for second in that one while playing just 31 games his rookie year. But for this season in particular, like each of these guys, I think Stephon Castle at plus 650 might be where I end up putting my flag down there. I've been very high on Matas Buzelis and still love him as a talent, but he's logged just 24 total minutes so far. So you can't win Rookie of the Year when you're getting that level of opportunity. Feel the same way about a lot of these guys. Connect's been great, but I do think he's not going to get enough minutes to ultimately win the award. Reed Shepherd definitely buried there, and there's just a lot of bodies down in Houston. Bub Carrington, I do think actually in Washington has plenty of opportunity there and is a guy that I like quite a bit. That's not an awful shout at plus 1,800 there, but I think Stephon Castle at plus 650 is where I'm going to be joining that team as far as campaigning. I loved him at UConn. Well, I was a little skeptical from like the positional fit because he was very clear about wanting to be a point guard when he didn't play that like at all at UConn. It's translating all right. I think the dude's a winner. I think he's going to be just fine. So maybe that at plus 650 is probably where my head's at right now.
All right, excellent stuff. And then over to the MVP, way too early, only 1 week into the season, but right now SGA plus 320, Luka. So we talk about these markets too. It's fun to update them so this way you get those numbers in your head as we go week by week to see where these things move. A lot like the Heisman Trophy number, but SGA plus 320, Luka plus 320, Tatum 5-1, Joker 7-1, Anthony Edwards 8-1, Giannis 14-1, Anthony Davis 15-1, Brunson 25-1. Paulo Banchero, 30-1. Victor Wembanyama, 30-1. I'll stop there. Your thoughts on the MVP at this point in time?
Yeah, Anthony Davis at plus 1,500. It's a little intriguing to me. Leading league in scoring currently, a guy that looks a little bit higher on, I guess, how the offense is built around him this year with JJ Redick than has been the case for most LeBron era. He's been awesome. He was really healthy last year, played 75 plus games. If that continues for this season and he keeps up this level of production, I do see the pathway to him winning the award there. So that might be worth a swing at plus 1,500 to me, but I do think it is between Shea and Luka is probably the most likely outcome.
I like where your mind's at. No longer known as Street Clothes Davis after last season.
Yeah.
So hopefully he can remain healthy. And the Lakers got a little bit of buzz, a little bit of pop. I mean, it's the Lakers at the end of the day, but they are playing well. We'll give them credit when credit is due. Sean Barnard, I'll give you credit all the time. Once again, a fantastic episode of Picks and Roll, getting you caught up on all things NBA. King of the court tonight.
I'll roll with I'll take a nice Tyrese Maxey flyer right here. But I do think he builds off the 45 points. He's going to get plenty of attempts. So a bit of a far shout here that I could see one of the more usual suspects taking care of business. But I think Maxey has a big day tonight.
LeBron going home? It's a road game. Who knows what happens there? Give me somebody at home here. Harden at home?
Don't hate it.
Yeah, they could blow him out, though. That's the only issue there. You went with Maxey. I'll go LeBron. LeBron. Why not? He's going back home to Cleveland. You know, this could very well be one of the last stops. I don't know if they play again. I think they might play again at there. I don't know.
I would think so.
Yeah, and the fact that LeBron isn't hanging it up without getting that swan song, you know, the circuit at the end, you know, going around from place to place.
Farewell
and he deserves that. Yeah, farewell tour. There you go. So we'll see. But we'll see what happens. Again, 8N, who will be number 9, DraftKings Sportsbook's King of the Court. Great stuff. You can find Sean Barnard and all his content at dknation.com. Be sure to give him a follow on all things social. Sean, fantastic stuff. Good luck on those plays. We'll catch up later this week, sir.
Yes, sir. Sounds good.
All right, there he is. Once again, Sean Barnard right here on The Gambler. If you missed anything, at foxphlgambler.com. And once again, keep it locked right here to The Gambler for great coverage on all things college football, college basketball starting on Monday, NBA, NHL, and more, all right here on The Gambler.